Now that you've read the story, I want to come back and walk through and talk about a number of the places that the story, a number of the themes point out some of the ways that this story gets to its moment of time and correlates with the experience of Japanese in the 20th century, right? We're in a post-war moment. And if nothing else, I imagine you've already seen this, the expression suffering in the face of the widow Horikawa Kurako, that it is suffering that is stronger than everything else in this time, and yet there's this long conversation about beauty as well that he is very committed to. And what is this man looking at this woman? What is he thinking about? What is going on, right? And the issue of being after the war, that there's beauty here even in a moment after the war of extreme poverty and deprivation and want, right? And no questions here of why would this affect him the way that it does. Indeed, why? One of the reasons is this right here. This section here where he starts to explain to us, we have a feeling with him that she too suffers in the way that he suffers, right? It's a story of affection and two people coming together here, united in suffering because of the post-war period, right? And we get a thunderbolt of emotion that passes through his breast, right? What else? There are ways in which she reminds him of himself, and he thinks about as he sees her, it takes him back to another battlefield experience. I think this is clear that for this man, like many in post-war Japan, everything that happens is an experience that takes him back to the war, the battlefield. Another important section, it gets at something very powerful, very disturbing in this whole business, is the way he describes what it meant to be a soldier, right? Life at the front, he was always suppressed, there was never enough food, there was camaraderie, and yet as far as the privates towards their officers was very brutal and very difficult. And indeed, even though they're in this together, right, that to protect his own life with his own strength, a man could console himself with his own suffering, he could grasp his own death with his own hands, right? And just as they all selfishly guarded the water in their water bottles, they desperately clutched to life in the leather bottles of their selves, right? Each man is enveloped by his own skin. People cannot know one another. It's a very bleak picture. Further, right, even more so, no one can help another, right? In a sense of such extreme deprivation as being a soldier in the Japanese army at this time in the Philippines, you give your water to another person, you help another person alive. What happens? It means that you as well would die. Giving up your food for another when the entire platoon was starving would mean your own death, right? Helping another person is tantamount to suicide. It's a very bleak picture. We walk through the story. Where are we as we go with this? We are reminded that he is in the south of China. He's in the southern part of China, right? And then he's moved on to the Philippines from there. On this page, a very powerful scene too of the bleakness and the difficulty and how hard it is to be a soldier. And further, the point being here that men are replaceable, but horses are very valuable, right? There's a very powerful, often corroborated sense in Japan, of the Japanese military, that the privates, that the way they would win the war would be to win and not be killed by their superior officers, right? If you think about this story, there really are no enemy soldiers. The enemy, the battle for survival, the way any soldier is going to live through this battle is with himself and getting outside, is surviving the steps and the tasks that his commanding officers put him to. What other picture do we get from this? Just want to point out this, what's going on here, the dependency, people needing to depend on the black market to get by at this point of time, selling off things, family heirlooms and other bizarre things in order to get some money in order to buy food. We move ahead and we start to get the soldier who in post-war Japan may be hallucinating, may be thinking. He's clearly in the grip of very powerful psychological effects, right? So what does it mean to be a human being? Right? These are main questions that haunt these soldiers in this post-war Japanese society. What does it mean to be able to love another human being? Right? Referring back to the canteen scene earlier, how can one be powerful connected to another? The one point I want to make here is how this continues into the post-war period, right? The soldier who earlier was separated by others by the skin of a canteen, who is cut off from his fellows, again is with a woman with whom he might be some connection. And what happens? They stand on the train platform, and there's this barrier between them. There's no hope for connection. There's no hope for understanding. No hope for true sharing. The post-war, the wartime extends into the post-war period and destroys all chance for human connection. It makes for, again, this very bleak scenario of life in post-war Japan. Which takes this very powerful final paragraph here, where what happens? A number of things happen, right? She gets off the train, the door closes, as if to reiterate this firm wall that's between them. There's a glass there, they can see through it, but they can't touch each other. The individuality of the war means that they can't connect now in the post-war. Right? Everything that happens in the everything that happens in the post-war period takes them back to the battlefield scenario. Right? Third, the sense of the red moon. Well, red moon means all sorts of things. Right? It looks like the red sun of the flag. The red moon over China is an oft repeated phrase about Japan's place in the world as an imperial power at the time, right? And now, what is between them? Everything and nothing. He saw his existence rubbing against hers. He felt that between their two existences was a single transparent sheet of glass which moved between them at infinite speed. It's a very powerful, sad, compelling, distraught, disconsolate way of thinking, of experience the 20th century. And that one of the reasons why this story was so powerful in its time is because of how quickly after the war it garnered and represented and told the tale of what it was like to come back from war and be cut off like this, everyone from everyone else.